Lucas grew up in a quiet riverside town where nothing ever seemed to change. The streets were small, the buildings were old, and most people believed their lives would follow the same path as their parents before them. His father worked as a delivery driver for a small warehouse. Every morning before sunrise, he would start his old truck and drive across nearby towns, delivering packages for long hours. The work was tiring, and the pay was never enough. Lucas's mother worked at a local grocery store. She spent most of her days standing behind the register, greeting the same customers every day. Life in their house was simple. They were not poor enough to starve, but they were never comfortable either. From a young age, Lucas noticed something about the people in his town. Everyone seemed to accept their life exactly as it was. Most people never asked if things could be different. But Lucas was different. At night, he often sat outside on the small wooden steps in front of his house. From there, he could see the distant glow of the city lights far away across the river. Those lights fascinated him. To Lucas, the city represented opportunity. It represented a future that was bigger than the quiet life surrounding him. During his final year of school, Lucas's teacher once asked the class a simple question: "What do you want to become in the future?" The students answered one by one. Some said they wanted stable jobs at the nearby factory. Others said they would work with family businesses or construction companies. When it was Lucas's turn, he hesitated for a moment before answering. "I want to build something of my own." The classroom grew quiet for a second. Then a few students began laughing softly. One boy sitting in the back whispered loud enough for others to hear, "Lucas thinks he's going to be rich." A few others joined the laughter. Lucas didn't argue or defend himself. He simply smiled and opened his notebook. On the corner of the page, he wrote one word: someday. After finishing school, Lucas faced the same decision as everyone else in his town. The safe option was clear. Several factories nearby were hiring new workers. The jobs were stable, and many of his friends had already applied. Even his parents gently suggested it might be the right choice. But Lucas couldn't ignore a growing curiosity inside his mind. While spending time at the town library, he had discovered something that changed the way he saw the world: the internet. Through a borrowed computer, Lucas began exploring how people were building businesses online. He read stories about ordinary individuals who had started small projects that eventually turned into real companies. What surprised him most was that many of those people started with almost nothing. No money, no connections, just an idea and persistence. Lucas became obsessed with learning. He spent hours in the library reading articles and watching tutorials. He studied how people sold digital products, created websites, and offered services online. Every new piece of information made the world feel bigger. Eventually, Lucas made a decision that would change everything. Instead of taking the factory job immediately, he would give himself time to try building something online. With the small amount of money he had saved from temporary jobs, Lucas bought a second-hand laptop. The computer was slow, and the battery barely lasted an hour, but to Lucas, it felt like a powerful tool. Every evening, he sat at his desk learning new skills: graphic design, simple website building, basic online marketing. Some nights he felt excited about the possibilities. Other nights he felt completely overwhelmed by how much he still needed to learn. But he kept going. After several months of learning, Lucas decided to launch his first project. He created a small online service offering simple graphic designs for small businesses: logos, social media posts, and promotional images. He built a basic website and uploaded examples of his work. Then he waited. At first, Lucas checked his email constantly, expecting messages from potential clients. But days passed with no responses. Weeks passed, still nothing. The silence slowly began affecting his confidence. Maybe he had misunderstood how this worked. Maybe his designs were not good enough. Maybe the people who laughed at his dream had been right all along. But Lucas refused to quit after only one attempt. Instead, he opened his notebook and began writing everything he had learned from the experience. His website needed better visibility. His marketing was weak. People simply didn't know his service existed. The problem was not just the idea. The problem was how he was trying to reach people. That realization changed his mindset. Lucas understood something important. Failure was not the end of the journey. It was simply the beginning of learning. That night, he closed his laptop with a new determination growing inside him. He would try again, and next time, he would be smarter. What Lucas did not know yet was that the road ahead would be filled with many more failures. But those failures would slowly shape the person he was about to become. Because sometimes the journey to success begins with nothing more than one simple decision: the decision to keep trying. Lucas woke up early the next morning with the same thought running through his mind. He had failed. His first project had not worked. But strangely, the failure did not make him want to stop. Instead, it made him more curious. Lucas opened his notebook and began writing everything he had learned during his first attempt. He realized something important. His idea had not completely failed because it was bad. It failed because people simply never discovered it. His website existed, but no one knew it existed. That meant his real problem was not creativity. His real problem was visibility. With this realization, Lucas began studying a new skill: marketing. He spent hours watching tutorials about how businesses reach customers online. He learned about search engines, social media promotion, and how people actually find services on the internet. The more he learned, the more he understood how complex the online world really was. After several weeks of research, Lucas decided to launch his second project. This time, he offered a different service. Instead of selling graphic designs, he decided to help small local businesses create simple online advertisements. Many shops in his town had almost no online presence. Lucas believed he could help them attract customers through social media. At first, the idea seemed promising. He visited several local businesses and explained what he could do for them. Some owners listened politely, some seemed interested, but most simply smiled and said they would think about it. Days passed, then weeks. Still no clients. Lucas realized something painful. People often say they are interested, but interest does not always turn into action. His second project slowly faded away. For a few days, Lucas felt discouraged. 2 attempts, 2 failures. But instead of quitting, Lucas returned to his notebook again. He had developed a new habit. Every time something failed, he wrote down the lessons. Over time, those pages began filling with observations about business, people, and decision-making. Lucas noticed something fascinating. Every failure was teaching him something valuable. He was beginning to understand patterns: why customers hesitated, why some ideas worked while others did not, why attention was one of the most valuable things in business. Still, understanding something did not mean success would come quickly. Lucas continued trying new ideas. He experimented with freelance services online. He tried creating digital guides. He even attempted building small websites for local companies. Some ideas showed small signs of progress. Others failed almost immediately. Years began to pass. By the time Lucas turned 24, he had attempted more than a dozen different projects. Most of them had not succeeded. People in his town had started noticing. Some neighbors quietly joked about him. They said Lucas was always working on something that never seemed to work. Even some friends began questioning his decisions. They had stable salaries now, regular routines, predictable lives. Sometimes Lucas wondered if they were right. One evening, he sat alone outside his house, watching the river flow quietly under the moonlight. The town was peaceful, but inside his mind there was a storm of thoughts. Had he wasted years chasing something unrealistic? Should he finally accept a normal job and stop trying? The question stayed in his mind for a long time. But then Lucas remembered something important. Every skill he had learned over the past few years had come from trying. He had learned design, marketing, customer psychology, basic programming, business strategy. If he had quit after the first failure, he would never have learned any of those things. That thought gave him a strange sense of confidence. Maybe success was not about one perfect idea. Maybe success was about becoming the kind of person who eventually recognizes the right opportunity. Lucas realized he had changed. He was no longer the inexperienced teenager who first opened that laptop years ago. He was someone who had learned through real experience that could not be taught in classrooms. That realization changed the way he saw failure. Failure was not proof that he was incapable. Failure was proof that he was gaining knowledge, and knowledge, if used correctly, could eventually lead to opportunity. That night, Lucas wrote a sentence at the top of a fresh page in his notebook. "Every failed attempt is training." He stared at those words for several minutes. Then he smiled slightly, because deep down he knew something. The journey was not over, not even close. Lucas had no idea that soon he would encounter an opportunity that would finally connect everything he had learned, an opportunity that would transform years of failure into the beginning of real success. But that moment had not arrived yet. For now, Lucas simply closed his notebook and prepared to continue the journey, because he had already made one important decision long ago. He would keep trying. Lucas continued working on new ideas, but something inside him had changed. In the beginning, every failure felt like a personal defeat. Each unsuccessful project made him question whether he was capable of building anything meaningful. But over the years, those failures began to feel different. They no longer felt like endings. They felt like lessons. Lucas had filled several notebooks with observations about what worked and what didn't in business. He understood how attention worked online, how customers made decisions, and how small mistakes could destroy a promising idea. Even though he still had not built a successful business, Lucas was no longer inexperienced. He had quietly become someone with knowledge most beginners did not have. One afternoon, Lucas received a message that seemed small at first. It came from a man who owned a small bicycle repair shop in a nearby town. The message explained that the shop had almost no online presence and struggled to attract new customers. The owner had found Lucas's old website while searching for help with marketing. He asked a simple question: "Do you think you could help my business appear online?" Lucas read the message several times. It was not a big opportunity. It was not a large company. But something about it felt different from the projects he had tried before. This time, someone had a real problem. Lucas replied quickly and asked more questions about the shop. The owner explained that most of his customers came through word of mouth, but new people rarely discovered the store. Lucas realized that many small businesses faced the same challenge. They were good at what they did, but they were invisible online. Lucas offered to help improve the shop's visibility. He redesigned the shop's social media pages, created simple promotional images, and built a small website that allowed customers to easily find the location and services. The project took several weeks. Lucas paid close attention to every detail. When the work was finished, the bicycle shop owner began noticing something interesting. More people were finding the shop through online searches. Customers who had never heard of the store before were now walking through the door. The owner sent Lucas a message filled with excitement. "This is working." Those two words meant more to Lucas than any amount of money. For the first time in years, something he had built was producing real results. The success of the project led to something unexpected. The bicycle shop owner told other business owners about Lucas. Soon, another small company contacted him, then another. Lucas suddenly realized something important. He had been chasing random ideas for years, but the real opportunity had been hiding in front of him the entire time. Small businesses everywhere needed help navigating the online world. Lucas already understood the tools they needed. He knew how to design simple websites, create marketing visuals, and improve online visibility. Without realizing it, Lucas had been preparing for this opportunity for years. He began offering his services to other local businesses, restaurants, repair shops, small retail stores. Many owners were interested because Lucas spoke from experience rather than theory. He understood the struggles of small businesses. Slowly, his client list began growing. At first, the payments were small, but Lucas was not focused on the money. He was focused on results. Each successful project improved his reputation. Each satisfied client recommended him to someone else. The work was exhausting. Some days, Lucas worked until late at night finishing projects and responding to messages. But unlike the failures of the past, this work felt meaningful. For the first time, Lucas felt that he was moving forward instead of standing still. Months passed, and Lucas noticed something surprising. His small service was becoming a real business. The demand for his work continued increasing. Soon, he had more projects than he could handle alone. This forced Lucas to face a new challenge. For years, his biggest problem had been finding opportunities. Now, his problem was managing growth. Lucas realized he needed help if he wanted to continue expanding. The idea of hiring someone felt risky. His business was still small, and he had never managed a team before. But growth often requires uncomfortable decisions. After several days of thinking, Lucas decided to take the risk. He contacted a young designer he had met through an online community. The designer had talent but lacked experience. Lucas recognized something familiar in him, the same determination he once had. Together, they began working on client projects. The change was immediate. With two people working, they could complete projects faster and accept more clients. Lucas began focusing on strategy and communication, while the designer handled visual work. The small partnership worked surprisingly well. For the first time, Lucas felt that he was building something larger than himself. What started as one person's struggle was slowly transforming into a growing company. But even though progress had finally begun, Lucas understood that this was only the beginning. Bigger opportunities would soon appear, opportunities that would test whether he was truly ready for success. Because building a business is not only about starting, it's about learning how to grow. And the next phase of Lucas's journey would challenge him in ways he had never experienced before. Lucas's small business was growing faster than he had expected. At first, it had only been one or two clients asking for help with simple online improvements. But now the requests were coming from different towns and different industries. Restaurants wanted better social media marketing, local shops wanted websites, repair services wanted help appearing on online maps. Lucas and his small partner team worked long hours trying to complete every project on time. The work was exciting, but it was also exhausting. For years, Lucas had struggled just to find opportunities. Now he faced the opposite problem. There was too much work. Every morning, new emails appeared in his inbox. Every afternoon, new clients asked questions about marketing strategies. And every night, there were deadlines waiting to be finished. At first, Lucas tried to do everything himself. He answered every message personally. He reviewed every design. He helped every client with detailed advice. But slowly, he realized something important. If the business kept growing this way, he would eventually burn out. Success requires growth, but growth also requires structure.
Lucas began thinking about how real companies operate. Successful businesses did not depend on one person doing everything. They built systems, they built teams, and they created processes that allowed the business to run smoothly. This realization changed Lucas's perspective. He decided that if his company was going to survive, it needed to become more organized. The first step was hiring another person. Lucas contacted a freelance developer who had experience building better websites. The developer joined the team and immediately helped improve the quality of their projects. With 3 people working together, the company could now handle larger and more complex clients. The work became faster, the results became better, and the reputation of Lucas's company continued growing. Soon, they moved their work from Lucas's small bedroom into a shared office space in the nearby city. The office was not large or luxurious. It had a few desks, several laptops, and whiteboards filled with ideas and plans. But to Lucas, it represented something incredible. For the first time, his dream was no longer just an idea. It was a real company. Months passed and the business continued expanding. Local entrepreneurs began recommending Lucas's company to others. Their clients appreciated the practical approach Lucas had developed through years of trial and error. Instead of promising unrealistic results, Lucas focused on simple improvements that actually worked. This honesty built trust, and trust built long-term relationships. But just as things seemed to be stabilizing, Lucas encountered a new challenge. A large regional company contacted him about a potential project. This company operated several stores across different cities and wanted to completely rebuild its online marketing strategy. The opportunity was enormous. The budget alone was larger than all of Lucas's previous projects combined. But the project also carried significant risk. If Lucas accepted the job and failed, the reputation of his young company could suffer serious damage. For several days, Lucas thought carefully about the decision. The safer option was to decline the project and continue working with smaller clients. But something inside him reminded him of the same courage he had used when starting his journey years earlier. Growth always requires risk. Eventually, Lucas decided to accept the challenge. His team immediately began planning the strategy. They studied the company's current marketing efforts and identified several weaknesses. The website was outdated, the branding lacked consistency, and their online advertising strategy was inefficient. Lucas and his team spent weeks redesigning the entire system. They created a modern website, improved the company's online visibility, developed targeted marketing campaigns. The project required intense focus and long working hours. But slowly, the results began appearing. The company's online traffic increased, customer engagement improved, and sales began rising. The client was impressed with the results. The successful completion of that project changed everything. Lucas's company was no longer seen as a small startup. It was now considered a professional agency capable of handling large clients. New opportunities began appearing quickly. Bigger companies contacted Lucas for marketing help. Talented professionals asked if they could join his growing team. The company that once struggled to find a single client was now becoming a respected business. Yet Lucas never forgot the years of failure that had led him here. Those difficult experiences had shaped his thinking. They had taught him patience, discipline, and resilience. Without those lessons, he might never have been prepared for the responsibilities that success required. Lucas understood that the journey was still far from over. Building a successful company was not a single achievement. It was a continuous process of learning, adapting, and improving. But one thing was now clear. The boy who once sat alone in the library dreaming about opportunity had finally begun building the future he imagined. And the next chapter of his journey would bring the greatest success he had ever experienced.
Lucas's company had grown far beyond what he once imagined when he first opened that old second-hand laptop years ago. What started as a single person experimenting with ideas had slowly transformed into a real business with a small but talented team. The shared office that once felt large now seemed almost too small for the growing group of people working there. New clients continued arriving through recommendations and online searches. The company was finally stable. But Lucas understood something important. True success is not measured only by survival. It is measured by growth. And growth often arrives when you are willing to take the next big step. One morning, Lucas received an unexpected phone call. A national retail company was searching for a marketing agency to help modernize its online presence. They had noticed Lucas's company through a series of recommendations and wanted to discuss a potential partnership. The opportunity was enormous. This company operated dozens of stores across several cities. Managing their marketing campaign would require significant planning, resources, and responsibility. For a moment, Lucas felt the same nervous excitement he had experienced years earlier when launching his very first project. The difference now was experience. Years of failure had prepared him for moments like this. Lucas arranged a meeting with the company's leadership team. When he entered the conference room, he was surrounded by experienced executives discussing strategies and budgets that were far larger than anything he had previously handled. But instead of feeling intimidated, Lucas focused on something simple. He spoke honestly. He explained how his company approached marketing differently. Instead of complicated theories, his team focused on clear strategies that helped businesses connect with real customers. The conversation lasted for nearly 2 hours. Lucas answered every question calmly and confidently. When the meeting ended, the executives thanked him and said they would contact him soon. The waiting period felt familiar. Years earlier, Lucas had waited anxiously for his first client. Now he was waiting for something that could transform his entire company. A few days passed without any news. Then, one afternoon, Lucas received an email. The message was short but powerful. The company had decided to work with his agency. For a moment, Lucas simply stared at the screen. He remembered all the nights he had questioned himself, all the failures, all the times he had wondered if he should quit. And now he was looking at an opportunity that could change everything. The project required expanding the team quickly. Lucas hired additional designers, marketing specialists, and developers. The office moved to a larger space in the city. For the next year, the company worked tirelessly on the national campaign. They redesigned websites, improved online advertising, built stronger digital branding, and slowly the results began appearing. Customer traffic increased, sales grew steadily. The company's leadership was extremely satisfied with the progress. As the project expanded, Lucas's agency gained national recognition. New clients from different regions began contacting the company. What had once been a small local service had now become a respected marketing agency. One evening, Lucas sat alone in his office reviewing the company's financial reports. The number on the screen caught his attention. Total company revenue had officially crossed $1 million. Lucas leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes for a moment, not because of the money, but because of what that number represented. It represented every failed idea, every sleepless night, every moment when success felt impossible. All those moments had slowly built the person he had become. Lucas realized something powerful. Failure had never been the enemy. Failure had been the teacher. Without those difficult years, he would never have developed the knowledge and resilience needed to build a real company. A few days later, Lucas visited his parents in the same quiet town where his journey began. The streets were still small, the buildings were still old, and life still moved slowly there. But Lucas saw the town differently now. It was no longer a place that limited dreams. It was the place where his dream began. He showed his parents the company's progress and the success the business had achieved. His father smiled with quiet pride. His mother hugged him with tears in her eyes. For them, Lucas's success was more than a financial achievement. It was proof that determination could change a life. Later that evening, Lucas walked to the same spot near the river where he had once sat years earlier, wondering if his dreams were unrealistic. The city lights across the water still glowed in the distance, but now those lights no longer represented a dream far away. They represented a future he had built step by step. Lucas often shared one simple message with young entrepreneurs who asked about his journey. He would say that success is rarely about one perfect idea. Success is about persistence. It is about continuing when progress feels slow. It is about learning from every mistake instead of being defeated by it. The difference between people who succeed and people who quit is often very small. Successful people simply try one more time. Lucas understood this truth better than anyone, because the life he built was not created by one great idea. It was created by years of refusing to stop. And sometimes that single decision to keep going is the most powerful decision a person can ever make.